Continuing education knows that at the end, students want to graduate, and we can help them do that because we take the time to really listen to their needs and we understand all the different options that are available across the campus for them.
We don't take a cookie cutter approach. We realize each student comes with their own story. So whether it's a part-time student looking to complete a degree program or someone just looking for online courses, we're there to connect them to the resources of the university.
Hello and welcome to the Fashion Week follow-up, its function, the trends, and working it. Fashion is something that no matter who you are, it is a part of your life and identity. Whether you are a trend tracker or beat to the drum of individual style, or simply dressed to be dressed for the day, we all interact with fashion daily. To these panelists, this relationship with fashion is increasingly intimate. Whether it be attending fashion shows, styling celebrities, sketching and designing collections, or paving the way for fashion newcomers, these incredible creatives will be sharing their views on the fashion industry today, how they do what they do so well, and divulging their fashion folklore of backstage stories with us. Hello, my name is Ava Deeth. I am a New York fashion journalist and stylist, as well as a CU alumnus. I have written articles for Haute Living magazine reporting on runway collections and fashion news. I have also styled or been on the styling team creating magazine covers for publications such as the Daily Front Row and Vogue Hong Kong. I am honored and grateful to be here with you all today, and without further ado, let's begin. And for recording purposes, today is Wednesday, April 10th. It is 3 p.m., and this panel number is 18039. Titled Fashion Week Follow-Up, Its Function, the Trends, and Working It. Before we get started, the University of Colorado Boulder, Colorado's flagship university, honors and recognizes the many contributions of Indigenous peoples in our state. CU Boulder acknowledges that it is located on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute, and many other Native American nations. Their forced removal from these territories has caused devastating and lasting impacts. While the University of Colorado Boulder can never undo or rectify the devastation wrought on Indigenous peoples, we commit to improving and enhancing engagement with Indigenous peoples and issues locally and globally. We will do this by recognizing and amplifying the voices of Indigenous CU Boulder students, staff, and faculty in their work, educating, conducting research, supporting student success, and integrating Indigenous knowledge, consulting, engaging, and working collaboratively with tribal nations to enhance our ability to provide access and culturally sensitive support to recruit, retain, and graduate Native American students in a climate that is inclusive and respectful. One other thing I'd like to mention is that we want to ensure you get a chance to ask questions. Here's how we'll handle the Q&A. We'll reserve the end of the discussion for the Q&A. We're using a note card system to receive questions from the audience. At any time in the session, simply raise your hand to request a note card and pencil from one of our producers. Please write legibly. If you are a student, please note this in your question card. When you finish, raise your hand to hand it to the producer who will bring it up. I urge everyone to please make your questions brief and to the point and intelligent. And now I'd like to do a brief introduction of each panelist. For more information, you can find their full bios on the CWA website. Okay, so first we have Laura Melendres, and Laura is a fashion designer, Yale graduate, and proud founder of Amor and Rosas, an ethical luxury brand based in Mexico City committed to empowering Indigenous artisans within her community. A talented sketch-based designer who sends her sketches to local artisans to be made based on their own interpretation of the sketch, whatever sartorial surprise that may be. Known for her beautiful embroidery, she has shown her collections at Austin and Mexico City Fashion Week and retails with the Four Seasons and Auberge. Next we have Daniel Herranz. Daniel is an author and creative based in Mexico City. He has worked for Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Mexico for over 10 years, written a book entitled Hecha Mexico that details the development of the fashion industry in Mexico, now used as a base text for the design department of the Universidad Iberoamericana in Mexico City. And in 2021, he created Xerxes, his fashion brand with a contemporary and utilitarian approach. He now is in the process of developing a new fashion week in partnership with TikTok Latam, with a focus on new and up-and-coming designers. And last but certainly not least, this is Stephanie Tricola. Stephanie is a born and bred New Yorker, a fashion editor and stylist, and has left her mark on the fashion industry through runways, magazine covers, and red carpets. She is currently a contributing fashion editor for the Rolling Stone, using her talents to ideate and create trailblazing editorials, and is also a stylist, dressing celebrities such as Margot Robbie, Salma Hayek, Zendaya, and Mary J. Blige, among many, many others. So yeah, welcome to the panel. Excited to talk to you guys. I think we should just start by maybe talking about what inspired you to pursue each of your career paths.
All right. Ladies first. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm a fashion stylist and personal shopper. I've been inspired by my grandmother. My grandmother is from Italy, and she came here, and she was a seamstress. So I grew up altering my clothes, changing everything I wore. My grandmother taught me how fit happened, taught me about fabrics. She made me things to wear. So I feel like I was just destined to be here. My mother also was very into fashion. She always took me shopping and showed me trends, and I saw the power of making people look great. And so I naturally went that way. Even as a kid, I would help my friends get dressed or with their hair and makeup, and now I play dress up for a living.
Hello, I am Laura Melendres, or Laura, if that's easier. I think for me it was more that I was in search for a purpose, and I wanted to do something with my career that was meaningful. More than just like, because I started business, right? Something better than just working to make money, but instead working to make the life of at least one person better. And just thinking about how can I work with women, and then in Mexico, and then knowing that we have a rich cultural tradition of hand embroidery, it just like kind of makes sense. I always love like handcrafts, and I would just like collect like small boxes, bracelets, and whatever thing that I would find cute growing up. So I was like, okay, maybe this is my opportunity to add design so we could just create value, and by capturing, just fix the whole supply chain and pay the fair prices to the people that are making the pieces.
Cool. Well, I'm Daniel, and I think I feel inspired more. I'm studying journalism at college, so I feel interested more in the social part of fashion, you know, like where the trend born and all of this. So my approach, it's more like that, not to this glamorous thing about fashion. It's more like, okay, I want discover how this is building and how is the impact in the social part. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Fashion definitely touches all parts of society, whether
Yeah.
that be culturally, politically, etc. Speaking of political topics, after collecting data post-Fashion Month this season, Vogue Runway reported that out of the top 10 collections viewed on Vogue Runway, 6 of them were women designers, which is somewhat out of the norm. Most of our designers are men. So Laura, what is it like for you to be a female in a male-dominated design space?
Well, I think that's the entire world.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I have been like thinking about this, but I feel, but maybe because I grew up like in a very protected environment with only women. Like my mom sent me to school with girls only until I was 15 years old, and I begged her please to change me to a different school. I don't think I got that feeling of like not being worth or not being considered. So I do believe that whenever I do something, I'm always one of the best ones if I want, right? So it's just like interesting to see how females are more present right now, and we are doing more and more things that are interesting, and we are just finding our way to make this world more equal. So Yeah, I think it's a general fight. It's not only in this industry.
Absolutely.
I think it's changed quite a deal, quite a lot. I've been around for quite a long time, older than these guys. And I started when it was very male dominated. And whenever I would do a photo shoot, I was mostly reporting to a male. Since the Me Too movement, I work with many, many females. There's many more photographers now that I deal with that are females. I don't have to ever, I used to have to maneuver myself around the males to get where I wanted. And I no longer have to do that. And I don't think any women really have to do that anymore in fashion. I mean, there's still always, you know, a bit of that wherever you go, but I really feel like the tide has changed now since the Me Too movement, and there's a lot more women. And I'm sure we'll see more and more women designers, just as I see more and more female photographers. 80% of the photographers I work with now are females, and when I started, it was about 5% females that I worked with, so it's come a great deal, and the Me Too movement definitely helped everything change that, you know, into that direction.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot more women working. There's always been women working in fashion, but now there's a lot more women in power in fashion.
Yes.
And also I think the new generations fight for this. It's more normal for them, you know, to see more women working in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny, in different parts of fashion, there's either male-dominated or female-dominated. Photographers and designers tend to be male, and editor-wise, used to be.
Yes.
Thank God.
Editor-wise, though, it's mainly females.
Female, yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely opposite, which is so interesting that now we'll all be together sooner rather than later, hopefully. But getting into more specifically of your each individual jobs and your each of your processes creatively, what is your creative process, whether it be designing clothes or a collection, doing an editorial, or styling a celebrity or a personal client? Where do you go from start to finish and get to that place where you're like, this is done, this is my work, and this is what I'd like to send out to the world?
Do you want me to start? It depends on the project that I work on. I work on many various projects. So if I'm doing an editorial for a magazine with a said celebrity, it depends when the publication is launching the editorial that I'm working on. So usually I'm working 6 months in advance and preparing my story based off of the current runway collection. So I'll review the runway collections. I always have to say that at the baseline of everything, I consider the human that I'm dressing first and foremost, and what they would be comfortable in and what they would be happy wearing, because the better a person feels, the better they perform.
Absolutely.
So no matter what I dress anyone for, I want them to feel great, because then they're gonna have. So anyway, I work off of the collections, I look at the collections, I pick out the clothes that I think will be appropriate for the person, and then I create a mood board, and I pass the mood board to whoever's hiring me. So if it's for a magazine, I first run it by the magazine, I talk to them about it, and then I'll have to show the celebrity that as well, and we'll have to discuss everything, and then I'm contacting designers, and I'm telling the designers the project that I'm working on, and based on the project, they decide whether or not they want to lend me the clothes that'll be in that publication and that'll be worn on that person. Because first and foremost, it doesn't matter about the stylist or the power of the stylist. It matters about who you're dressing and where you're dressing them for, and then from that, I can get free clothes or I have to pay for clothes.
Yeah.
So based on that, that's where I start every project that I do, basically. But then I sometimes work on ad jobs, and in an ad job, I have to know when I'm advertising, I have to know the people that the ad's going to target, and then I have to dress the people according to that. And I always have to go over everything with, you know, the people from the client, the magazine, and the person that I'm dressing. Unless it's a model, they have no say. They have to wear what I say.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only time I have control over the whole entire thing.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you see my work, it's not always what I wanted them to wear.
It
Yeah.
does happen. It does.
What-
So then in an advertising job, or even in an editorial, when you're trying to sell an idea, could you talk about what you do, or how maybe in your style, your clothing selects speak that message that you're trying to convey? Or how you even get there to understand that this is what's going to speak what I'm asking it to in this project?
Huh. I don't know, I'm kind of confused. What do you mean?
Like if you're advertising for a beauty brand and
Mhm.
it's supposed to be very ethereal, how do you pick clothes that communicate that theme?
I'll Google search ethereal. I'll start
That's
to
amazing.
look online and look for ideas that would be in that direction.
Yeah.
I'll pull images, and I'll keep a running board of images, and I'm looking at those images all the time, and then I'm going to where I can choose clothing, whether I'm buying it in a store or I'm borrowing it from a designer, and then from there I pick the direction I want to go in.
Mm.
And then I get to set, and usually the client was like, well, that's not what I meant. And then I have to explain to them, you know, where my thought process is, and I always use visuals
Yeah,
to explain everything.
absolutely.
Well, with the collections, when we're making the collections, I always try to have a message, and it start from a theme instead of just like trying to make something beautiful, because I know that it's going to be easier to explain, and it's going to make so much sense for us. So it always has the layer of Mexico. So we made one collection that's about the endangered species of Mexico, and I would say it's a love letter to Mexico. And then we had another collection that's called Love Garden, and that one, it's about how in a garden, it's just an analogy, how in a garden you have all these different types of flowers, and they are all considered beautiful, and they are different. And it's the same with females or women, so because we are just so obsessed with fitting in with just one type of beauty. So just like trying to mirror that. And then we have also a collection that's inspired in all the pre-Hispanic culture of Mexico, and that's super successful because mostly our customers are tourists and people that want to go to Mexico and just take a piece with them that represents or reminds them of their trip. And right now we are moving to concepts that are more abstract. Like we launched a collection that's about sunflowers. And it's just sunflowers everywhere, because I think that's something that's super related with Mexico, but it's also the sun, and it's just the energy. During the pandemic, we had a collection that's called Aura, and it's about peeling layers, because during those times it was complicated for all of us, just like to make a sense of the world. So I thought that it was time for us just like to peel the layer, and we have snakes there. And then we also have the stages of the moon, and it ends up with an eye, because that's the awakening, right? And after the pandemic, that was an opportunity for us to just like revalue everything and be more awake. So it's basically just ideas, and I try to make them, to relate them with a social issue or a social matter or something that's cultural to Mexico.
Cool. Well, for me, it's a kind of different because I don't have much time to do this creative process. So I try to use my time in a very smart way because I have a lot of work, not only for my brand, also I work for Fashion Week, and now also I do a producer events. So I don't have much time to research and plan this. So when I'm doing a new collection for my brand, for example, I used to think in one topic, you know. For our last collection, the inspiration was the witches. So I feel attracted by this old society woman, you know, like the inner power and magic and all these kind of things. So I try to imagine what kind of clothes I want to do for this collection, and that's it. My process is so fast in that way, so I just try to research in the museums and read the books and a lot of these things to make a sense with the collection, and that's it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of collections and our inspiration, going back to your recent collection, you've had two major collections that have been shown recently, and from one to the next, they are quite opposite in both color and design. So I'm interested in your shift in design and inspiration to something that was quite colorful during the first collection and now is much more darker and ornery in a way. And So if you could talk about that when you have a shift.
Well, at the beginning, the color was a problem for me because, it's too many. And when I do the first collection, I say like, okay, I need this color, but also need this, but also need this. And for last collection, I mean, the main idea about the witches, about the, the moon and the faces and the stars, it was more easy because I say, okay, I need to do all in black for, the women's wear and the men's wear. And I have a couple of colors more than blue and gray, well, colors. And I feel more comfortable because, even for sale, the collection, black is always function for all the
Yes.
people. So
I'll have to agree to that.
yeah,
I would as well.
So, and many people in fashion things like, oh, the collection it's good and the pieces are great, but a little bored about the colors. And
Yes.
I say like, well, but it functions for sale. It functions. So
Yes.
I don't know. I think it's just the way you combine, the topic and the fabrics. So for me, it was kind of interesting. Now I'm working in the next collection. I'm launching in July of this year.
Yeah.
And it's another palette of colors, it's a lot more like burgundy and yeah. So I try to do different things, but always, with the main concept. So,
Right.
yeah.
It's interesting because when we just started, we at the beginning we just were making clothes and reselling them to boutiques. But then we opened a store and then we put all of our pieces there and it was all black.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, this is not working. It's just like all so plain.
But it
So-
does. The
It
black
does.
is
It depends what
dark.
market you're in.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, but now we are being more intentional about color palettes. So when we are creating a collection, we choose colors and we always make every single piece in black, but we don't put them in the campaign. We just put them at the store.
Yeah.
Or we hide it away because it's less obvious, but people are going to ask for black all the time.
All the time.
So you just put this one in blue and then at some point you see she's undecisive and it's like, oh, we have it in black, do you want it? And you just take out that safe selection or safe option. Yeah, but black is very important in fashion.
You lure them in with the color,
Yes.
and then you get them with the black.
Yes.
And then I also have to say, from watching fashion for many years, it depends on what state of the world we're in. So the fashion collections for the upcoming fall, it's very black.
Very black.
Yeah.
Why is it very black?
Yeah.
We're living in a very difficult time right now. If you look at the 80s fashion, when Ronald Reagan was around and there was prosperity, the fashions were crazy.
Absolutely.
You had people with crazy shoulders, crazy colors. It's really reflective upon the time we're living in. And also, if you live in a city where it's like I live in the city, for me to wear white is a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
And it depends on your lifestyle. So I think it's great to have color also because every once in a while you need to pop up your stuff and change the way you look, and color helps do that. But I think a lot of clients like to wear black.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think people feel more, exists this color palette when people feel very comfortable. Like with my first collection, I have a lot of colors, and people say, "Oh, I like the pink one, but I have it black." So it was like, okay, I have the black. So I don't know, it's interesting and it's kind of weird, but it works. Black
Yes.
always works.
Do you find that people are more intimidated of fashion or color specifically, and that's why they kind of grab to black?
I feel yes,
Well,
totally.
yeah, you stand out more when you wear color. If you wear black, you blend more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Speaking of the kind of change in the world and how that is reflected through fashion, how do you approach the concept of luxury or high fashion even in a time where luxury is kind of being redefined and pushed down a little bit, as we were talking about, seeing a lot of black on the runways this fall? It's very pared back due to recession issues. How does that affect you and your process, or kind of how you go about your jobs these days, or dressing people in general?
Well, sorry, but at this time, I think luxury for me, it's more about the time we have, because almost, I feel so occupy all day, you know, like okay, I'm on Instagram, but then I work, but then emails, but then, you know, so for me, time is a kind of luxury. So if you have pieces that, you know, mix together all the time, for me, that's a kind of luxury, you know.
Yeah.
And also about the quality of the clothes, but for me, it's more in that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Peter do it
Yeah.
last season. His entire collection was
Yeah,
just
like,
all
you
pieces to
don't-
mix and
yeah,
match.
so you don't think too much about, you know, the look. It's just I have this and I have this and I have this and it works together, or it's singles. So for me, it's about that.
That is quite luxurious to
yeah.
not struggle in the morning
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
I agree for sure.
Well, in my case, the luxury is like adding something that's handmade and just like going back to valuing, giving time to the processes, especially because we got to a point where everything is so mass produced and just the quantities are just immense. So just like being able of having or owning a unique piece, I think that's luxury to me. And then finding them, right? I think that, and that's the experience we are trying to create in Mexico with our two stores. You go to Mexico City, you are walking around, then you find this store that you have never heard of it. You go inside and you find all these objects that you love. And you know, it's a little bit pricey, but you need to own something from there. So that's what it is. And then you want, me as working there, you push it a little bit and you say, well, it's the last piece. We only made 5 of them. You'll never see it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, I need to take it now.
And you don't see that piece walking in the street like
Yeah.
with Zara or something.
That's
Yeah.
the thing with Sarah, it
Yeah.
happens, right? Like I think you see one beautiful piece and you compliment a person. It's like, wow, that's a beautiful jacket. And then you walk around and you see 10 more people wearing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's
I
Sarah.
don't feel it anymore. Yeah, totally.
Well, I dress a lot of personal clients, so I encourage everyone to buy good shoes, buy good accessories, and then you can mix the lower priced items with your luxury items.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm always about trying to
Balance.
mix high and low. I think it makes it more interesting. I really hate when I see someone completely head to toe one collection,
Absolutely.
completely head to toe logos. You know, I want to see. I'm interested in individuality, so I want to see how you wear that luxury sweater.
Yeah.
You know, what pants are you going to put with it? You can
Yeah.
put a pair of Zara pants. Luxury also, I mean, you pay for what you get, because the better the item is, the better it will fit you, and the better it most of the times it will last longer, and you won't have to, you know, keep buying new clothes.
Yeah.
So I think there's a great value in luxury, and if you can't afford everything to be, you know, top of the line, then choose the items that, you know, for me, I want to have good shoes. I need to be comfortable, so I'll spend money on my shoes, you know?
Yeah.
Or my sunglasses. I'm obsessed with my sunglasses, so I always have expensive sunglasses. But then, like, I'm wearing a Wrangler shirt today, you know, and then, you know, you just have to mix your items up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more fun that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of sustainability a little bit, what role do you believe sustainability plays in the future of fashion, and how do you integrate it into your own work or process in work?
Vintage.
Vintage.
I'd rather use vintage than use a pleather leather jacket. I think it's already there. It's already made. It's too late now. Why not repurpose it? And that's a huge trend right now.
Yeah.
I mean, all the kids, all they want to do is wear vintage. And vintage to them is like Zara from last year. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know.
So true.
So,
Yeah.
I think vintage is the move for sustainability. I don't like to buy anything that I think is flammable.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the newer materials that are so-called sustainable, you know, you could light yourself on fire.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't want to be wearing plastic, so I'd rather be wearing natural fibers and use vintage.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a huge movement right now. I think it's one that's
Huge.
sticking around more than making clothes that are made out of plastic and are sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, we've
I'd
seen
rather do that.
Valentino and other houses open their own
Right.
vintage
Yes.
stores just to push it that much further. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan as well.
Yeah, like I say natural fibers. Like if you can make a piece that can biodegrade, that's the go-to. Especially if we don't want to change our consumption habits, which are hard, because I do see how many pieces a person buys a year, and I don't think the consumption habits are really changing. So just making a piece that you can wear at some point, it doesn't have to be on Earth forever. That will be the future. But then one category that would have to be polyester is performance clothes.
Right.
Especially here, if you're going to do a hike, you need a nice jacket.
Yeah, but you could still get a cotton lycra blend over, a pure polyester, gross fabric.
That'll pill.
That'll pill and wear terribly.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to get my leggings from the Gap, and they would be like
Yes.
cotton leggings. It's very
Yeah.
hard to find a cotton legging now. Someone should bring back the cotton legging, because
It's true.
these leggings that are like $100 are pilling, and they're horrible for the world.
Or rip right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to explore more the idea of the upcycling. For me, it's kind of impact to see the landfill, with
Yeah.
many clothes. And I think the designers need to think about this. I mean, maybe work with our own clothes,
Yeah.
if we don't sell it, we can, transform these clothes in another new thing.
I love that.
So I try to do this with the knitwear line that I have in my collection. So if you buy something and you don't want it anymore in your closet, you can bring it to us and we can transform this with the same fabric. So
That's amazing.
yeah, so I think that conscious about the clothes have a longer life than you.
Yeah.
So we need to be very careful about this. And the upcycling idea, it's interesting, So,
It is.
Or pass it down to your children.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Give
the
it away to
best.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
So
And upcycling, I find to be on the rise just as much as vintage is. So that's
yeah,
interesting.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you can mix it fabrics. It's something interesting about upcycling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Laura, will you please talk about your specific mix of fabrics and how you kind of came to find the silk and hemp combo?
Yeah, and I also want to add something about how we produce. So my favorite material right now is hemp, and it's amazing. It lasts forever. It's beautiful, especially if you use it in natural color. It has just like this beautiful, raw color, and you add the embroidery to it, and it's just like perfect. So it's just a canvas with a punch of color. And one of the main issues with the fashion industry is that because you have a buyer trying to predict how many pieces they can sell next year.
Yeah.
So you just go up, and you are trying to place that order to your factory in China, right? So then you say, okay, I'm going to maximize and order a lot, and if we sell 60% of the collection, then it will be fine, and I can just reduce or discount the rest. Or if I don't sell 40% of whatever I produce, it's okay because I'm already making money, right? So that's the rationale. But then what do you do with that 40% of the volume you produce? And that's why people are talking about the situation in Chile with the Atacama Desert and how these areas, beautiful areas, they are just becoming landfills with new clothes that were never sold or worn. So what we do is that we produce in small quantities. We do a slow fashion. If we are testing a new product, we only make 20 pieces, and we observe how fast they are moving. If the piece is successful, then we produce 50 or 100, but that's it. And we value scarcity more than the opposite. And I think it makes sense with what we are making or our business model. But then just being clear about the brands we're buying from. Because especially right now, there are so many brands and they are saying they're ethical, but they are using the same supply chain. And it's so easy just to design a collection and not get involved in the process of how pieces are made. And as long as pieces continue to be made in China, in India, or in Bangladesh, then brands can have all of these certifications, but certifications are also business. So it's just like the same industry and capitalism. So, and then when we started, I was like, I thought the consumers were going to be more curious and more demanding. And I was like ready to ask all of these like complicated questions. But then they never ask. They're like, it's so beautiful. And they
just
like,
want to look beautiful.
Yeah.
That's it.
like,
Yeah.
are you going to ask about like, I'm saying I'm doing social impact, like what's the model? And like, do those things, right? So, yeah, I think that's called greenwashing, right?
It is. It is.
And it's just like, and there are so many companies just like getting along with doing whatever they want, just adding that like sustainability layer, but not really changing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only do you change things sustainability-wise, but you empower an entire community of women and artisans.
Yeah, and I understand why it's easier just to outsource production. Like, it's so complicated. Like, it's
Expensive too.
So
it's
expensive.
expensive. And it's a lot of work. So, especially if what you want is just to create or express your ideas, creative ideas in terms of clothes, you just like find those factories that are perfect for you to not have to think about it. But I don't know, like if we buy less and we are just looking for those beautiful statement pieces that we're willing to wear many times, then we can get more involved into the decision-making process. And then we can just be more demanding. But I do believe the whole like system will have to change if the consumer changes.
I agree. All right, well, we are just about ready to start our Q&A, so I'm going to start to read some of your questions. Stephanie, the first one is for you. Stephanie, how do you network your way into styling big celebrities?
We
Good
know,
question.
we want to know about the drama with the celebrities.
The drama.
Yeah.
They're all wonderful, great people, lovely. How do I network my way? Well, I started out in fashion, and I started working with just strictly fashion. And I got on a set, and the photographers just went from being film to digital.
Ah, okay.
And my prior experience and before I was a stylist, I worked on the business side. I was a buyer. So I knew about the corporate mind and how they tried to cut corners on everything. So then I left, I became a stylist. I wound up on a very early days e-commerce set, which is like the beginning of e-commerce. And I looked around and I saw the workload, and I knew how much people got paid, and people were making a great deal of money. And then because of the digital camera, it made, say, the photographer's job that much easier, right? And then I said, uh-oh, when the financial people from the designers come to the set and they see this guy, or at that time it was a man, and they see him and he's just sitting there, you know, moving the camera up and down for 5 days and getting paid a great amount of money, knowing that I could do that, I started thinking, oh, I've got to dress. They're not going to pay me this much money going forward, because this is all going to become a lot cheaper for them to do once they realize that they're overpaying now. So I have to dress celebrities. So I had a friend who was doing an editorial for Esquire magazine, and they asked me to do a Sports Illustrated model, and that was the first experience that I had even to be near someone of some sort of fame. And then I realized, okay, I need to go to that job, and I need to knock it out of the park, and I have to do a really good job, right? So I showed up to the set, the girl walked in, she was a Sports Illustrated model, and she was like a size 10. And it was a sexy girl thing, and all it was like lingerie and swimwear. And so the photo editor from the magazine came running up to me very scared, because prior to that, I knew her size, and I had to do my pull of wardrobe based on her size, right? So he came over and he's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? She's not the same. And I was like, oh, I've got this. Like, a few brands sent me maternity lingerie,
Yeah.
and I was able to do the photo shoot, and the girl looked great, and we had all the right sizes, and she didn't have to feel bad not fitting into the clothes,
Yeah.
and it was like, everyone was happy. The shoot was a success. The editor went back to the magazine, told his staff, keep hiring Stephanie. So then I got to dress more and more celebrities, but they were very scantily clad. And then I was pregnant with I was pregnant with a girl, and I was thinking, oh gosh, I can't let her see how I'm dressing these women. You know, I don't want her to be, you know, grow up thinking she has to be sexy and all this
Right.
stuff, and I don't like that I'm doing this, and I need to put more clothes on people. So one of those editors changed and went over to People magazine, and actually those editors would always ask me, like, how can I help your career? Like, what can I do for you? And I kept saying, I need to dress celebrities. Like, I need to dress celebrities because they're gonna need me in front of the camera and in their real life.
Yeah.
So I got to People magazine, and I got to dress a lot of great women, and then they would just like hire me, and then they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on and so forth. And a lot of my work is based on my reputation, and it's based on other people telling them, like, you know, I look good because of her, hire her, and then I get jobs.
Yeah.
And that's how I do the celebrity hustle.
That's amazing. May I ask, what year was that about, the Esquire
So
job?
my daughter was born in 2009, so I was probably like 2008 I started working there.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so I worked for Esquire for quite a long time, and then I worked for People magazine for quite a long time, and then my friends from People magazine went to Rolling Stone, and then I work at Rolling Stone magazine, and I also work at Real Simple, and everything is organic, word of mouth, and reputation,
Yeah.
basically, and then I have a few good photos to show for
Yeah.
my work.
Yes. Okay, I have another one. Is the fashion industry actually built on promoting self-loathing, so they buy more?
I don't believe so. I believe that, you know, it's built on trying to make you look better and feel better
Yeah.
about yourself, so you buy more. I mean, oh, you chasing the idea to keep looking like something. Yeah, a bit of it is like you're chasing an idea and trying to be that way. But I think nowadays there's so many different various ideas of beauty now
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can look however you want to look. If you want to try to conform, that's within yourself. That's something I can't help people with. But I would hope that it's more based off of trying to make you look and feel good than, you know, trying to feel bad about yourself. Trying to chase that ideal is that has nothing to do with what the fashion people are putting out there to try to make you feel bad.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my point of view.
No, I
I don't think they're
agree.
making I think they are trying to make you feel like you need to have these things, and you know,
Right.
you want to have these things. Sure, that's creating a desire and a need, but that's like anything else.
Right, that's business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fashion is feeling. You would never put something on that you feel terrible in, or at least wouldn't keep it on for long, I hope. But I have another question, hopefully more positive. In your opinion, this is to everybody, what is the purpose of creating collections in general? How do collections affect the fashion industry? And why are fashion shows so important? Why do we have them?
I mean, again, it's for business. They show new collections to sell new things.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's a business.
Innovation.
You have to keep showing new things.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't-
part of the marketing, I think.
Yeah.
It's a cycle of the life of the product
Yeah.
in fashion.
Yeah.
I think now, you know, a collection don't need exactly a fashion show.
Yeah?
I think Laura can talk about
I don't do
this
fashion
because
shows.
yeah, she
Yeah.
do fashion shows.
Exactly.
We do a fashion show together.
Yeah.
I mean, like 6 years ago,
Uh-huh.
maybe, but she don't do this anymore.
Right.
And the brand is successful, so.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I got tired of doing things with no results.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I need to find a life balance. And I just decided to put my energy and resources into things that were going to help me to get sales. And fashion shows, they are beautiful, and you get all of this beautiful content. I'm sure you can, if you are a super well-positioned brand, I'm sure you can do it. But in my case, as I described it before, I think my pieces is something you discover when you are exploring Mexico City or Mexico. So I do want to do fashion shows again, and we need to talk about that. But now that we have customers that love the brand, and because we are, I think we took the concept of a slow fashion too seriously, because we have been selling the same pieces for over 6 years. And that also proves that our market is just new and renews itself, because it's just different people coming to Mexico City, so the pieces are new to them, but not new to us. So what I want to do is working more in innovation, because someone told me that in the past, out of your whole portfolio, if you had 10% of innovation, it would be considered an innovative brand. But now, because of how social media and everything is moving so fast, now it's 30%. So I need to work more into creating new styles. But we already have styles or silhouettes that are successful. It's more about changing the color or adding a new embroidery instead of just like coming up with something completely new. And yeah, the other thing is that's complicated with fashion, because I used to work retail, like consumer goods before. When you're launching a consumer good, you create one good thing, like let's say a soap. And you make one soap and you do a product development one time and you just sell it forever. But with fashion, you want to create new things all the time, and it's risky, because
And also impossible, I think.
it's impossible also, but like maybe sometimes we create something and we are like, wow, this is so beautiful, it's going to be a complete success. And it's not.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
The whole team believed that these were the powerful pieces, and the result is that are these ones. So it's so hard to like try to predict that. That's why we just test them out, and we just put them out there and see what the market says.
Fashion shows help create a buzz for the brand.
Yeah.
So it's a big marketing event.
Yeah.
It used to be, when I first started out, only people in the industries would go to the fashion shows, and now people in the industries, shy away from the fashion shows more so, because it's just a big media event. It's like the Oscars.
Yeah.
It's like any kind of thing. Like every time there's a new fashion season, it's like who is there, who is wearing it, and then based on who's wearing it, is that a design that I want because Zendaya is wearing it, so then I want to buy those clothes,
Yeah.
So it's all a big marketing thing, and it helps create buzz and sensationalism, and keeps you relevant, and
Totally.
it's just another opportunity to get your name out there.
Yeah,
and create
it
a
is
star.
something to note, though, that it has changed so much, because it really used to be so much smaller and not very publicized at all, and now it's
Because
such
it was a trade show. It
Yeah.
was where I went to buy goods for the store that I needed
Yeah.
to supply. So it's or the magazines went there to see what they would show, So it was like magazine people and store people went to the fashion shows. Now it's celebrities and bloggers, and it's
Yeah.
like a zoo when you go to a fashion show.
Yeah, totally.
And I can't even see the clothes because the bloggers
Yeah.
are in front of me, or the
phones.
the Instagrammers are in front of me, and I can't even see anything anymore.
Yeah.
And based on their following is who sits in the first row. And when I first started, it was based on the store who sat in the first row and the magazine that sat in the first row.
Yeah.
So that it's changed into another catalog, another way for people to market their goods.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also for me it works. I mean, a fashion show works for me because my brand is too young. It's like a baby.
Yeah.
So it works because I need to people know my things. So for this media, for the content, it works because you can see the collection
Right.
in the wrong way.
Yeah.
In the otherwise, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That depends on the brand, I think.
Yeah. Would you say that once you got onto Vogue Runway and they started to report on your line, that you did see
Yeah, exactly.
difference in visibility?
Yeah, exactly. And I have more consumers for that, so
Wow.
it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Vogue has more followers than he probably does,
Yeah,
so
Right.
then his
exactly.
message gets out there more.
Yeah, well, that's why I was going to say that now that we have customers and they love the brand, I think we are ready to start doing fashion shows, but it has to be something different. Like, I wouldn't like, I think we have to have our independent fashion show.
You don't have to run on the same cycle as them then.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
do your own
exactly.
thing.
Not even in a runway.
And just
You can
invite
do-
the customers that love the brand, so we create this opportunity to be more in contact, because I want them to tell us like why do they love the brand, and that's something we haven't been doing. Like, we need they have all the information we need to expand the brand, so we need to just create those opportunities to be closer to them, but in our own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you can do that because
Yeah.
of social media, you can get as big of an audience as you try to attain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fashion show don't need to be a runway, so
Yeah, there's presentations or all
exactly.
sorts of things. And the calendar isn't as strictly adhered to anymore either, so it could be at any time, which is great.
yeah. And I think after COVID, the calendar don't have a lot of sense. I mean, in
Yeah.
countries like like the States, and you can see the seasons, it works. But in our country, in Mexico, it doesn't work really.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
It's
Yeah.
warm all the year.
Because you
Yeah,
have one
it's
season.
warm,
Yeah.
rain,
But do
and
you
it's
ever
cold.
want to design for another season and do so anyways, or do you tend to stay more towards the lighter fabrics?
Well, for me, I just do one collection a year, so
Okay.
I try to cover
The whole-
all
the bases.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I don't know for Laura, it's different.
Yes. Well, I started like selling mostly tops and jackets, but now I'm doing more spring summer, because I think it makes more sense with Mexico. But even if we do winter clothes, we make them with light fabric. So it's just like you have the piece that's winter, but it's not really for winter weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I have two questions here that are both of similar topic. Talking about the way in which we do research, it's gone from kind of like you were saying that you still go to books and old papers and things of that nature. And Stephanie, you said you'll look up the word that you're trying to capture, or you have a rolling Rolodex, if you will, of images that you've saved over time online. What are your thoughts on that transition, how it's affected you in your creative process? It definitely has affected me, because I'm similar to you. I do more of the tear sheets and random things. But what is that like for you, and where do you see it going in the future when it comes to inspiration?
Well, yeah, I used to have to pull inspiration from books, magazines, life, people in the streets. Now I'm Google searching and I can look up everything and find everything there. When I used to have to make a presentation for a job, I used to have to cut and paste and make a really pretty board and present the board to the people in person. Now I go online, I pull images, I put it in a Google Doc, and I can let people view it, and then we can all talk about it in the doc, and it's much easier for me. It's much more
Yeah.
streamlined. I used to have a physical book of my photos that I'd have to lug around wherever I would go, like a book, like a big, heavy book. It would affect even the way I would dress for the day, because I have to
100%.
carry this book with me.
Yeah.
And now, before I get anywhere, people already saw my work, that, I have things online. Once I had a website, I had a website early on, and it really helped my career. Because then it was just like streamlined. No one had to set up a meeting, and then
Yeah.
the meetings postponed, and things just happened a lot faster.
Yeah,
So
And
now
you've
you have
access
you have
to that.
everything at your access, and with the internet.
yeah,
Who knew? When I started, it wasn't that easy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For you, does it bother you at all that it's quite online now, since you say you kind of tend to go more towards the paper products of inspiration?
Well, yeah, because I really enjoy that way, but thinking about social media could be like an old school. So maybe it's interesting. I mean, you talk about the future, right? So maybe it could be interesting, have tools to do a kind of collage of videos. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine because, well, TikTok is the new Google, right?
Yeah.
So people consume this content so fast. So maybe, I don't know, it's interesting for me to think about that. I don't have the answer, but
Yeah.
I just try to figure it out.
Oh, another thing that I find really interesting about TikTok and all these social media platforms is now that I see that before a brand has a brick and mortar store, they will have an online store, a TikTok, an Instagram. They will get a huge following, and then they will open a store in Soho, and then they will have a long line.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how all the new stores in Soho right now on Broadway, each and every one of them, I had no idea of these brands. And my daughters, who are 13 and 15, were like, "Mommy, Garage is opening up on Broadway." And I'm like, "What's Garage?" Like, where's Garage from? And then I look online, and they have a huge following. There's kids lined up, and you can buy the same clothes in about 15 other stores in Soho, but everyone's buying it at Garage because they have the biggest TikTok following. And that's how all the new restaurants are opening up in the neighborhood. That's how all the new retailers are opening up. So it's like it becomes a trend. The kids line up for that stuff.
Yeah.
And then everyone thinks it's hot, and it's just the same as all the sameness of everyone else.
And I think that kind of tools like a TikTok help to have more diversity in fashion because it's the same information for the people in the States, for people in Chile and Latin America.
Yeah, but I think that makes everyone look alike.
Yeah,
You used to be able to go to London and people would look like Londoners. Now they look like New Yorkers, and New Yorkers look like Londoners, and like people here in Colorado look exactly like people in Long Island, and like there's no differences between anyone anymore. And I wish someone would do something on TikTok that looks completely different and start some other new trend. It's to me, fashion's becoming very boring. So
Well,
I think the internet is like evening out the way everyone is. Everyone looks the same now.
and also it's interesting because the trends are one trend today, and the next week it's another and another and another and another. So fashion start to be more, cycling like older ideas and trying to transform to new ideas, but it's the same.
Yeah, it is a lot of the same idea. And we were talking about this the other day, the sheer volume of trends in general that come on a daily basis, it feels like, is just, well, sad because you don't even get the chance to enjoy it. It doesn't last long. I do see a hand over there.
I have a hand, I'm old-fashioned.
We like it.
You know what, I just really wanted to ask you a question about what you thought of stores. I'm an old person. I used to go shopping.
I love stores.
I have to feel something. I have to feel it, to try on. I want to look at everything. I want to see my assortment.
Yeah.
I just moved here. I don't know where the stores are. And I'm like used to going to a mall. I'm used to going downtown. I'm from Chicago. I used to go to downtown and go shopping. It was a big deal. I used to live in New York. Great shopping.
Good job.
I don't wear all the stores. And to me, that's fashion.
Absolutely.
And that's how you see what everyone is wearing, what are the stores offering.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of overhead to have a store.
it is a lot of overhead. I was a buyer, so I know.
Yeah.
But that's fashion. Where do you see where's retail going?
Yeah, well, I'm a little scared because all the places that I used to go to, say Barney's, New York, it's gone.
Gone.
It's gone. It's gone. So until consumers start wanting something different, all the stores that are coming out, they're starting to all look alike. And then
That's why we're all London, New York.
Yeah, they're all Zara.
Yeah.
It's very, very sad. Yeah.
How can we get you?
So I have a whole theory on this, but it'd be like 3-hour conversation. But started out as a young kid in the store, and I saw my impact on the store when I'd get a real person and how much I could sell to them and how much I can help them.
Yeah.
That's a dying art, and that's also a dying skill set, because the corporate people at the top never really saw the importance of the people at the front lines that dealt with the consumers. And that's going away more and more and more and more.
We were just talking, they're no longer at the store.
Yeah.
Now you have a register.
Yeah, you used to be able to like work at Bergdorf Goodman and make like $400,000 a year as a salesperson, and then there's a movie about like Scatter My Ashes at Bergdorf's, and they talk about how, you know, they just started cutting the wages of the people that did that, and then, you know, why would a really good salesperson want to stay selling clothing when they can't, you know, like sell a car and make a lot more money? So they kept cutting and cutting the salespeople at the front lines, and so the art of engaging into a client is gone. And so many times I say to them, you know, I have like a bunch of clients that will not buy a thing unless I tell them, yeah, that looks great, you should buy that.
Yeah.
You know, but no one ever wanted. I guess it wasn't a big enough investment for them, and the return wasn't good enough, and maybe mass producing and doing all this is more effective now. You know, you're losing the salespeople. There's no one there to like engage with you. You're on your own in the store. I was in a athletic brand the other day, and I was talking to the people there, and they were like, "How can I become like you?" And I was like, "Oh, you got to nail a good client, and then have them trust you, and then, you know, you can start your little business." And you know, that's not really happening anymore. Like, people aren't going in shopping, meeting a shopper, always wanting the shopper, you know. There's no stores to go in. Yeah. The rents are really expensive, you know. It's like hard for small designers because, you know, I live in Nolita, and there used to be all small designers. None of those small designers can afford to shop there anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like any of the stores that are there right now, they either have big funding or they're a big brand. And then, you know, New York Soho looks like, you know, California's, you know, shopping district. Everything looks the same everywhere you go in America. Why are you coming to New York to go shopping anymore? All those places are starting to go away. You know? I don't know. Well, you can buy vintage and find old things. There's lots of places.
Yeah.
There's lots of places.
There is.
Yeah, Etsy is great. Etsy, you can find really creative things too.
The real?
I don't know. I get fearful about that sometimes, you know. I used to be able to go to a store on the Lower East Side and see every sort of hat there is in the world, you know, and I could go there and buy that. All those places are gone. They can't afford the rents, you know. They're not profitable anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's a theory for young people. Like, fashion has a global language. It's good or it's bad. Like,
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, for sure. One more question from a student. If you were to give advice to a fashion photographer trying to break into the industry and make a living, what would you say?
Don't do it. It's a really hard field. I mean, AI is coming in. Sometimes I was on a L'Oreal job, and I'm looking at the monitor, and there's a young photographer there, and I said to him, "What are you going to do in 10 years?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, I've seen AI that looks almost as good as this." The good news is that I've known people trying to create images from AI right now, and it takes longer than it does for a photo shoot right now to create those images.
I'll take that.
But eventually that's going to catch up, just like the digital camera. The digital camera there's so many older people that I worked with that'll say to me, like, "How are you still around?" And I'm like, "Because I changed with the times, because I kept up with the technology, because I changed the way I do things." You guys were like, "I'm not using digital." And I'm like, "You're going to die one day."
Yeah.
And the same thing with photography. If you can find your own voice and do something special that people can't recreate, then you have a bright future in photography. But otherwise, I don't know. I find it bleak. Sorry.
Yeah, it is quite difficult.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because a lot of people try to get in, so.
Well, now you'd have to like use the new technologies as a photographer
Yeah.
to set yourself apart. That's
Yeah.
what has to happen with every new technology there is. You have to learn how to work that to your advantage.
And create your own style without
Yeah.
tools, like
Yeah.
how you can combine, you know, the photo and maybe AI or
Yeah,
whatever.
especially to keep, as a photographer, your
Yeah.
point of view and your way of doing things, so you always know it's from that photographer. Nailing down your point of view for sure. And then, yeah, technology changes the whole
Use the technology.
game,
Yeah.
like in a week.
It scares.
It is scary. It is scary. Okay, we were talking about the street earlier, and we got a question about it. Please comment on the street as a venue and its potential to bridge the formality and group experience of museums, theater, etc., versus the online experience. So maybe like the bazaar up in the Upper West Side that they do once a month of all the clothes, where it's like a street sale instead of inside somewhere.
Oh, you don't mean the street, like what people are wearing in the street?
That's what I thought it was originally. We should talk about that too, because I love that concept as well. But maybe both. Shopping in the street. You have to be stylish while shopping in the street.
Well, I think the streets influence fashion all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, I watch the streets more than I watch the fashion shows. I go to areas where I know a lot of creatives live. I go and look at what they're wearing. I see them wearing bows in their head, and then 3-4 seasons later, Valentino has it on a runway.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like a lot of the trends that you see start on the street and start with the creative kids, and the creative kids start wearing these things, and then another kid starts wearing it, and soon you see like the uptick of the kids wearing it, and then you see it on a high fashion runway.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen so many times.
Yeah, all the time.
So I think the street influences fashion.
I
The
agree.
fashion on the street. You can also buy fashion on the street if you want from the street vendors. They
Yeah.
usually have unique things as well.
Yeah. And they're very easy to find.
Yes.
Well, also I do a bazaar in Mexico City. Yeah, so with the many designers, Laura participated one time. So I don't know, it's interesting, you know, try to figure out another ways to sell clothes, because I think I need, when I'm going to buy some clothes, I need to feel the fabrics and try and, you know,
Yeah, that's the
find
bad
how
thing
it
about
fits.
buying online. People are,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you buy like 3 sizes and you return
Exactly.
one.
Yeah.
You return
That
2, you
happened to me all
keep
the time.
1.
Like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Don't fit me well. Like, and it's more like, okay, I need to return this, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but
It's better to walk into a store.
complicated.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
trying to-
and also maybe because Mexico is behind, buying online with our price point is not really working for my brand. So we don't really sell online in Mexico, but we sell online in the US, which is weird. I
Yeah.
think people go and visit and they fell in love with the brand and they want more pieces, so they order when they are back home. And what is Danielle saying? In Mexico, it's common to have these pop-ups or markets, and that's how you can find all the Mexican designers.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to buy things. But also, sometimes it's sad that you don't have enough buyers, so you see the designers are desperate to sell
Yeah, like,
something.
Yeah, it gives you more global
Um,
audience when you go online.
Yeah. So that, I think that will be one thing. There's this guy in Mexico that does Trendo.
Ah, yeah, Gustavo.
And I think he's super cool. He's like, he does like Latin American trends. And he's saying, regarding what you were saying about how London, New York looks the same, he's like, Mexico, it's a bigger city and the population, and we have our own style. Why do we have to look at those trends that are happening in Paris, New York, or London, if you just go downtown Mexico City and then you'll find way more interesting trends?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the way, I think just going to the street in Mexico City should be the place we go to get inspiration.
It's an interesting
Especially
streets.
right now with music, like how it's changing so fast. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, in Latin America, the whole musical gender, like, changed in a second. I just had a baby and I was looking at all the hits, and I don't know one single song. I'm like, okay, well, I disconnected for a year and now I'm an old person.
Gotta stay on top.
Yeah, it's a constant work ethic of sorts. But I believe that is all the time we have. Thank you guys so much for coming and speaking, and thank you for all attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.